You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast,
delivering a player experience news.
Let's go! What is up, guys, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 313. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I'm joined over Discord by the resident Embark Glazer and my fellow Spartan, Gage Dempster, at Gilbo Biggins.
ready and willing to glaze.
Glaze on Soldier because Embark is part of our topic of the show, as we'll talk about here in a second. But thank you to everyone watching us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/@podcastpxn and twitch.tv/podcastpxn as well. The topic of the show this week, of course, is Arc Raiders has officially launched. We have our launch impressions here. We've been playing it. What are our thoughts? We're going to go into those right now in the topic of the show. So, Arc Raiders, starting out here, already has a strong start on Steam, has slotted itself into number 38 all-time for Steam Peak Concurrent list. So it's already jumped up the list already, still with, lots of time left to continue climbing through the life cycle of the game. It is smashed right between Hitman 2 and Kathy Rain, A Detective is Born, on the all-time list. So very good numbers. 354,836 peak players on Steam.
Wow, good for them, man. Good for them.
Good for them. What a start. Kirik says, what is Arc Raiders? Is it like Helldivers? We will talk about that in just one moment. I'm going to go through these last couple of stories, and then we're going to dive right into the thick of it, Kirik. The next item here with regard to Arc Raiders, if someone is caught cheating and you die in-game by them, your loot will be returned to you. There was a message that somebody posted saying, items returned. Your items were lost due to unfair play, but we managed to get them back for you. They're now available for you to claim and take with you on your next journey topside. We're committed to building an environment where gameplay is about skill, teamwork, fun, and not unfair advantages. Thank you for being a part of this mission, and together we are building Arc Raiders into a fair and fun experience for everyone. So, good stuff there from getting rid of the cheater bullshit.
Very, very cool stuff. Luckily, I will say this as well, which this is purely anecdotal and doesn't really translate to everybody's experience, but I feel like I've not come across any cheaters personally yet, and I've been playing this game a lot, as have you. I don't know if you maybe have a different experience you'd like to talk about later, but it's cool that they're putting this safeguard in for a game that also seems to have a pretty good handle on just not having a lot of cheaters. We talked about this a few weeks ago, just having the price tag at all is a really good blocking to keep people from just getting banned and creating new accounts and getting banned and creating new accounts. So the fact that there's not a lot of cheaters in the game already is a huge plus for me, but then the fact that they're taking this extra step for when you do come across that situation, you can kind of have a little bit of salvation, I guess, in terms of not having your stuff unfairly taken from you is really, really cool. And I know there's a lot of other extraction shooters that people have been asking for this for a long time.
For sure. Yeah. And of course, I always love the games where they throw the cheaters into an arena. I can't. Was it a Rockstar game that did that?
Yes, GTA 5. If they caught you cheating enough often, you would only ever get put in lobbies with other cheaters.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, we love stuff like this. Glad to see it to help the community keep growing in a positive fashion, not with these cheaters running rampant. So that's cool. Okay, so to dive a little bit into this, because Kirik asked, what is Arc Raiders? Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter where you basically go into a map, a large map, with a bunch of other players, and we'll talk about here in a little bit as well, depending on if you're solo or with a squad, things can play out very differently. But essentially, the objective is you go in, you have these missions that you can do. You can do loot gathering to help stock up for upgrades and craft items so that you can help yourself in the future. And you will be fighting against AI enemies on the map called Ark. There's different forms of Ark. They have all different variants, as well as playing against players. And you can decide to interact with each of those. So like you could go on a mission and not interact with Ark or humans, or you can interact with every single one that you see. So it's kind of like your full discretion. And then once you finish doing whatever you plan to do for that mission, you have to go to one of the points on the map where you go to extract. And you have to actually extract at one of those locations that you activate, and then it takes 30 seconds to actually build up and get you to the point where you can extract. And then if you successfully extract, you get all of your items that you got on that entire encounter. Gage, did I miss anything there for Keurig?
No. That's pretty well. That's pretty well it. I just wanted to jump on this just because I happened to have a conversation with a coworker last night about this very thing, because they were kind of saying like, oh yeah, like an extraction shooter is just kind of like the next battle royale, and it's one of those things where it's like on a surface level it sounds like that's the right answer, but it's almost kind of like saying, Call of Duty and Overwatch, they're both first person shooters. It's like, sure, but there's fundamental differences. So like with the extraction shooter, a big thing that you didn't touch on that I think is one of the driving forces behind it is like the out of raid progression, the meta progression, right? It's like it almost feels like an extraction shooter, if you wanted to dumb it down to its most simplest terms, is kind of like a battle royale mixed with like a little bit of like the Diablo sort of loot grind of like trying to gather all of these items to then give yourself permanent buffs in terms of like, oh, well, now I can just make this thing because I gathered enough of these parts to upgrade my crafting station, and now I can reliably craft this type of equipment to then help my next raids get better and better. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you did describe it right, but I would say like there's so much emphasis on meta progression, and so like if you're somebody who's curious about an extraction shooter, maybe you've liked battle royales in the past, but you don't like stuff like Borderlands, you don't like stuff like Diablo, you don't like stuff where you're kind of constantly grinding for things, then you might not be into extraction shooters, because I feel like you can't. This would be a tough game for me to wrap my head around, somebody just playing casually to like, just jumping in for the raids and that's it and not caring about everything else. I feel like in order to like this game and to get your money's worth, you have to be into the sort of meta progression of like grinding for certain things and trying to get certain builds and craft certain things. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a certain level of investment, because
Right.
you're not going to get a whole lot out of it if you just pick it up and play for a couple of hours and you're like, oh, I get this whole game by playing a couple of hours. Like, you won't get that. You need
Right.
to invest quite a bit of time to actually get it, so to speak, and continue to progress yourself, like Gage was saying, in the progression outside of the in-game stuff. And like a lot of that stuff kind of drives what your missions are. So like the progression outside of the in-game stuff is what's driving you to say, okay, I'm going into this raid looking for X, Y, and Z. And you may go into the raid looking for that and spend fucking hours upon hours looking for said item. No one's speaking about anything in particular, mushrooms, that I spent fucking hours looking for last night and couldn't find a single one. But anyways, but then you get sidetracked with like other things that happen on the map. Like you see an event that's happening where people are like all fighting one of the big arc, and then you jump in, or like you're walking past a squad of enemies and you're like, oh, I could maybe sneak attack them here, and then maybe we steal all of their loot. And yeah, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to like each drop in. Like each time you drop into the map, it feels completely different. Even if you spawn at the same locations and go to the same locations, you don't encounter the same things.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And that's just a great point where it's like, I'm going to go into the raid looking for XYZ. And it's like, not only can you spend the whole raid looking for it and not find it, but it's like you could get sidetracked by something else. And now you've got all this other loot that's really, really good that you weren't necessarily looking for. But now you're like, I got to put that other shit on hold because we got to get out of here because we got, we took out this team and we got their weapons and this is good. Let's get out. Let's reset and then come back and continue working towards that meta out of game goal that we're trying to attain.
For sure. Yep. Okay. So let's see. Should we start with positives or negatives?
What does negatives even mean? What negatives could you possibly have to say about the not late, great Arc Raiders? Let's do positives first. We probably both have more positives to say.
Okay. Yes, positives. So just to start off the positives, we can kind of bounce off of each other and such. But I found this clip online, which I thought was a really great illustration of this idea of like when I was just talking about every interaction and everything that happens in a raid is completely different every playthrough that you do. And one of these clips that I saw, I was like, this is awesome that this is like possible. This character goes into an extraction point, and essentially you have to get on this computer and type on the computer for like 3 to 5 seconds, I think, or maybe 4 or 5 seconds before the extraction gets completed. So the character starts extracting, and then somebody else, another player, shoots them while they're trying to extract, and they go down. So then you go into a down state. And of course, if you're playing by yourself, which this person was, you're screwed. There's no way out of the down state. You're just SOL. Right. Unless you're in the extraction zone and somebody finishes the extraction process. So the player that downed him walks up to him and starts to do the finisher move, which you walk up to a player, you press a button to do the finisher move on them while they're down. And as he's like winding up to do the finishing move, a little arc tick, which is one of the smallest arcs in the game, that's like a spider, jumps on the back of this guy right as he's about to finish the animation and stops him from killing this guy on the ground, which is just incredible. The timing that had to happen for that to happen. And it was enough damage that guy then received that he also went down. And then the original player that got shot and downed goes over to the console to activate the extraction, climbs his ass up on that extraction and starts typing away because the game allows you to extract even though you're down, which is awesome. It's just like stuff like that, the moment-to-moment stuff where you just never know what you're going to get is part of the charm of this game.
I'm almost disappointed that you found a clip like this to talk about, because I was waiting all week to bring up a situation that happened to me. Where I was playing solos. I heard the elevator, the extraction elevator get triggered and I was maybe like 90 meters out. So I'm sprinting. I hear the elevator arrive. I hear the woman say, "Doors open. Come on in." And I hear in VoIP, I hear somebody say, no, why are you doing this? Let's just leave. And then I see a flare go up. So I run up, and almost the exact same situation's happening, where I'm seeing somebody about to finish off another player, and the player on the downed is like, "Why are you doing this, man? You're a dick." So I run into that elevator, I say, "Don't worry, here comes karma." And I pull out the Pharaoh, and I fucking dome the guy that's about to finish the one dude. And then I make sure I finish off that guy completely, and then I call in the elevator, and then me and the original down guy get out of there. Wow. And it was one of those moments that I was waiting to talk about today, because I was like, same thing that you're saying right now. It's just like, man, there's so much emergent sort of gameplay opportunities that can happen in this game. And none of this is scripted. None of this is the Ubisoft sort of like E3 demo nonsense. This is all just random people, put them in a random situation, and this is the type of sort of events that can happen. So yeah, I mean, I've had a personal experience in the game that's very similar to the one that you just shared, and it's like, it feels incredible when something like that happens, and it just happens organically. And like you're mentioning, this game specifically, and I think it might have to do with the art style and the tone of the game. It does seem to have, especially on the solo servers, a lot more opportunity for cooperation. Whereas in a game like Escape from Tarkov, which very much is trying to be the most miserable game you've ever played, and that's part of the appeal, that's part of the niche attraction of that game. But as a result of that, it's very few and far between that you get cooperation. If you get into a gunfight with somebody in Tarkov, that you guys are not settling your differences over comms. Like that's just it happens once every 6 months you might have a story like this. Whereas in this game, I mean, we've only been playing it for 2 weekends now, but we've each have a handful of some sort of type of interaction like this that we can look back on and be like, wow, that was very, very cool.
Yeah, that's that's a really great story too. It shows like similar situation, but like something completely different happening. It's like that's the magic of it. I will say also a story that I have as well. When I was playing solo the other day, I was playing on Dam, and there was a leaper, which is like a big spider-looking thing, like a monstrosity. Right. And there was multiple players, like 4 or 5 players shooting this thing. And I was like, man, these guys are actually going to possibly kill this thing. So I ran up and started shooting it as well to kill this thing. And immediately this thing exploded. Immediately I ran to get the core or whatever it is, because I knew that has a core to it. I got the core out, and then I hear the people in the comms like, oh, did somebody get it? Did anybody get that? And I'm just fucking booking it to the nearest extraction. I'm like, I'm out of here. Nobody's even gonna be the wiser that I just literally just dropped in and was like, yep, I'll take that. Thank you.
You just snuck out, without anybody being the wiser.
Yep.
Yeah, if we want to get started on like positive aspects, or like our biggest sort of boons with the game and the game design, I would say for me the low hanging fruit that we don't have to spend a lot of time on because it's just so obvious is that the audio design in the game is like maybe not quite in a league of its own. It's not doing anything super innovative, but I feel like it's near perfect. Like I don't think that there's anything they could do to improve the audio design of the game. It's incredibly readable when it comes to enemy footsteps and telegraphing where people are. The sound design of the weapons, we've talked about this before, how it has a very limited sort of arsenal that feels like an old school sandbox. Part of the reason why I think they did that is that they can have these such unique noises and sounds for these guns, not only just the firing sounds but the reloading sounds of certain things. Like I can hear the sound of somebody breaking open a Pharaoh to put another round in, and it's clear as day in my head. I can hear it. So this, I mean, the easy one to start off the positives is like the sound design is just insane, and that's not even talking about the score and the music, which is very, very cool and fits the art style very well. The synth sort of like 80s mixed with orchestra stuff is awesome, but the technical sound design I think is like really almost flawless. I can't think of anything that they could do to improve it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even like the sound design of the arcs themselves like is so distinctive. Each one sounds completely different, and you're like, I know what that is. Like you hear a snitch that's getting triggered because somebody's running around underneath them, and they shoot an alert off to call more arc in to help them out. And my God, that happened a few times to me last night. I was hunting some snitches, and a couple of times they called in reinforcements on me, and I was like, fuck. But no, yeah, the sound design is great. I think another positive, which we also talked about in the server slam and also the technical test maybe, or one or the other, is how good the weapons are in terms of differentiating themselves and feeling very different from one another. Like, you have the Pharaoh and you have the hand cannon. What is it called?
Anvil.
Anvil. Yeah, thank you. You have the anvil as well, that they feel they feel like on paper would be very similar weapons. Like they're both single shot, heavy firepower, but like they have very different functions. Like the anvil is great in that short to medium range distance, but then if you get a little bit longer range, it gets a little bit dicier. I mean, it's still a really good weapon, but that's the point where you maybe switch to the Pharaoh instead to give
Right.
you a little bit more distance. But yeah, every single gun has its own advantage over the other guns in the sandbox, which makes it feel really satisfying to get that gameplay loop of having just such a different experience for each player that's in the lobby.
Right. And even the upgrade system for the weapons, like I feel like it's funny that because one of my gripes with Battlefield 6 was that I don't know if I said this on air or if I said it off air. I know I said it off air. I think I was talking to Christian about this. And it was like you get into these first person shooters where it's like you have like 10 different foregrips and they all have like maybe 1% to 2% difference in these
Right.
different areas, but it just kind of feels like, okay, just pick the best one that gives you the most stat boost, and you end up with these guns that all have the same things on them, where it's like even in this game, with this like very 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 few attachments, but they all serve a certain purpose. Do you want to rein in your random bullet dispersion, or do you want to stop the cursor from bouncing around, which is like recoil versus, or sorry, muzzle brake versus compensator? And that's it. Those are the only two like sort of things that to counteract any sort of recoil. And it just it's a very focused system, and I think that's going to be a through line for a lot of my positives with this game, is that it's a very intentional, focused design choices that they're making. So and even upgrading weapons, right? Like it would be very easy to be like, oh, a tier 4 anvil just does more damage than a tier 1 anvil. But I'm pretty sure none of the upgrades for any of the guns actually affects the damage stat. It's just stuff like, oh, it reloads a little bit faster, or like I noticed for the arpeggio, like the gap between bursts gets smaller, and it's like these kind of small little differences that like you do want to upgrade your weapons, sure, but it's not just like an easy sort of, you still have to be able to use them effectively, right? Like you can't just,
Right.
oh, now this is a one-shot gun because I leveled it up 3 times. It's everything seems very intentional with the meta progression always serving the gameplay instead of superseding it and kind of making it less important. It kind of makes the mechanics more important. Um, so yeah, the weapons are really great. I think the art style and the visual of the game is like, I can hear what people are saying, where it's like, sure, it's not totally unique. It's very heavily inspired by the original Star Wars. Like it has that retro analog sci-fi look, like for sure. But in terms of like the extraction shooter genre, when I think of games like Hunt Showdown or Delta Force or Tarkov, it's like this game really does stand out. And then they kind of took a big swing with this art style and this sort of like, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it like a positive thing, because the game is still very intense and kind of like the arc are very much an oppressive force in the game, but it does have this kind of slightly light-hearted kind of vibe to it that allows you to kind of have fun and get immersed while you're playing the game. But when you're outside of the raid and you're doing these quests and stuff like that, like I don't know, it just feels kind of comfy almost. It feels like the wrong word to use, because like it does not feel comfy when you're trapped in a building and there's a leaper outside for sure. But do you know what I mean? Where there's this kind of like almost welcoming kind of vibe to the game, where it's like, yeah, come on in, have a good time with us.
And I think a lot of that is driven by, it depends on which encounter you're in, and like a lot of that's driven by like voice comms, like by other
Right.
players. Like you may
Right.
get a situation where like other players are like being super friendly and super nice, and then in the next raid you got people, I'm coming for you, you better hide. You better hide. I'm coming for you,
Right.
buddy. Or like unloading bullets into you, giving you the same effect without even conveying anything or saying anything. They're giving
Right.
that impression by unloading bullets into you. Uh, one thing also that I wanted to touch on, which I know you'll agree as well, is the AI in this game is like insanely smart.
Yes.
It's crazy to me. I saw on Twitter today or yesterday, one or the other. Maybe you sent it. I can't remember. That if somebody's standing on top of an arc, they will purposely turn one way or another to get the player off of them. The Rocketeer, even somebody got on a Rocketeer because they used a grenade that disabled him temporarily, got on the Rocketeer, which is a flying arc. The Rocketeer flew up like really high up in the air and then turned itself to knock the player off, and the player fell to his death. Like that stuff like that is just like insane.
Right. And I haven't seen that clip. That sounds nuts.
Yeah.
But I would believe it because I've seen clips where people have sort of like their head glitching a Rocketeer, where it's like the Rocketeer is kind of just launching rockets at the wall and it's not doing any damage, and the player can just reliably sort of peek and shoot. And then it's doing the player is doing that for like maybe 30 seconds, getting some free hits in, and then the Rocketeer it totally changes to a different window with a different angle and starts firing rockets, and then it starts hitting the guy. And it's like I've heard rumors of that, where they're kind of experimenting with machine learning, trying to get these things per raid sort of within one encounter. If you fight an arc for too long, it will start to adapt to like the situation at hand. And it'll be very interesting to find out if that's true, because like you said, the arc feel incredibly smart. And it's so funny that like we'll have games that come out, and I don't mean a dog on The Last of Us Part 2, because I am a Last of Us Part 2 enjoyer, but like you have these big budget games that come out where they'll be like, yeah, we really spend a lot of time to make the AI as realistic as possible, and they'll shout out their enemies' names their friends' names when you kill them, and blah blah blah. And it's like you play that, then you go and play The Last of Us Part 2, and you're like, yeah, this is a really fun game, but it doesn't feel like it's moving the needle forward at all. And then here comes Arc Raiders, where they didn't really talk about AI at all in their marketing.
Yeah.
They didn't really have a lot of marketing to begin with at all, and then you play it, and like just through organic experience, you have people trading stories like this, where it's like, are they doing something different with the AI? Because it really does feel like this is something unique, and like in so many extraction shooters, the AI mobs on the map, the only purpose they serve is just to alert and to be an alarm to let you know that players are near them. Like in Tarkov, that's almost exactly what scavs are there for. They're not really a threat at all. It's just when you hear gunshots in the distance, you know that there's players around that area. Whereas in Ark, it feels like, and this probably comes from their DNA of being a PvE game first, but it feels like Ark is like a main component of the game. Like it's almost completely a 50-50 what you have to pay attention to in a raid. You have to pay attention to the Ark. You have to plan around them, and they're not just sort of like a nuisance or like an alarm system for other players. It really is like a core component of the game, is dealing with these AI sort of entities. So I totally agree with you. I think they're incredibly smart, and I'm curious to know where you come around on the balancing thing. Maybe we'll get into that for the negatives, but
Yes. We will. Let's talk about real quick the solo versus squad dynamic, because we touched on it a little bit, but when you go into a map right now, solos right now is like a very friendly environment. Like you drop
Right.
in, it's very much like do your quests, get basic resources, that kind of thing. And people are, for the most part, pretty friendly. And that's not to say you won't find people that are killing other
Right.
people, but for the most part, it's a great entry point for people that are maybe just getting started before you go in with a full squad or full stack. Maybe just go in solo for a few rounds and just kind of get your feet wet a little bit. And it also kind of is cool to collaborate with like everyone in the map and like say, hey, I'm looking for this, do you know where I could find some? And then someone will be like, oh yeah, I found some over here. So that aspect of solo is really good. And then the 3-stack squads, that is, I think, where the bread and butter is with this game.
Right.
In terms of like really getting down to like what this game is all about. You're hunting down other teams, you're hunting down Ark, you're hunting down large Ark once you get the weapons and materials that you need in order to be able to take those bigger Ark down, which then helps your progression outside of the game as well. So like that's very much my positives of squads. And then duos, I'll have some thoughts about duos when we get to the negatives, because duos, I haven't had a whole lot of good necessarily with
Right.
duos.
It seems like I guess before I say this, I'll say my original thing before I forget. Maybe the funniest crash out I've ever experienced over comms in a game was I was doing this was one of my first few solo runs, and I was playing and um I think I'm on spaceport and I'm trying to do a quest where there's a lot of quests, and this is typical for the extraction genre. But as the quests start getting more difficult, they'll start giving you tasks where you have to do a bunch of things in one raid. It'll be like, go to this area and find some folders, and then you go to that area, find some folders, and then your quest updates and says, okay, well now the folders tell you to go here, and it's like you kind of have to journey around the map, and you have to do it all in one raid. So I was in the middle of doing that, and I went into a building, turned a corner. There's a guy right there. We start. There's a player I should mention, and we exchange a few shots. He breaks my shield, and I get a couple of hits on him, but he mostly shot me. And then I turn a corner. I go, yo, yo, yo. Do we want to do this, or do we want to just chill? And he waits a second, and then I hear this guy go, "Fuck!" And I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then as he's walking away, and the volume is decreasing because of the VoIP effect, I just hear this guy go, "Everybody's so fucking friendly in this game." And to me, the crash out that like you're playing a multiplayer game and people are too cooperative and it's making somebody crash out, but he can't bring himself to just kill people. Like it's just such a. It stood out in my mind, and I thought, oh my god, this game is just so awesome. But to your point, which was about duos, I think, and we can switch to some negatives now, I guess. I don't think that they. Okay,
don't go to negatives yet because I have one more.
Okay.
I have one more positive.
Go ahead.
Okay, my last positive that I had, and I don't know if you have any others. Quest rewards I feel like are actually meaningful. Which I really like that. Because like some games they'll just be like, oh, here's some quests, and then you get some toothpicks or something stupid. Something stupid. Right. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? But like the rewards are really like substantial and actually help quite a bit towards your progression in the game. So like, yeah, I really like that and appreciate that.
I will do one more, and it's gonna be an amalgamation of a bunch of things because I really do love this game a lot and think it's one of the most feature complete and full experiences that I've played in a long time. So like I could go on and on. I could easily do a 3-hour podcast of just the positives of Arc Raiders, but I will try to sum them all up so that we can move on with other things. I will say that the amount of progression in this game, like you said, the quests feel rewarding to do, absolutely. But the amount of progression that you can do in this game without spending a dime, it is very, very consumer friendly. So you not only have the quest line, which none of that stuff is locked behind any sort of paywall. That's just the main progression of the game. You also have, if you're invested enough, you have like a trials menu where it's like these little tasks that you can do, where you try and climb a leaderboard, and it's all based off of doing a certain amount of things in one raid. As you level up your trial rank, this is a total separate thing to quests or to your raider skill points or to the battle passes. And this is another thing that's completely free, that there's no pay to win aspect. But as you level up your rank in the leaderboard in the trials, it also gives you stuff. It gives you like cosmetics and different gameplay stuff like that. You'll get like attachments for hitting certain milestones. So you have your quest, you have that, you have your raider decks, which again, you earn all of the currency to buy your raider decks in game. There's no like, I'm sure they'll add an option later to skip because they got to find ways to make money, and that'll be a different conversation. But as it stands right now, you have 3 modes of like questing / challenges to work towards, and I feel like this game just rewards you for wanting to play it, as opposed to making you have to play it to get rewards, which sounds like a small difference, but so many games nowadays feel like they fall into the latter camp, where it's like, oh, if you want to like feel like you're making any sort of progress, you have to play this game as your main game. Whereas this game feels like it's the opposite, where it's like, hey, any amount of time you spend with us, there's going to be like 3 different things that you're constantly working towards. So like by the time you're done with a 2-hour session, you probably would have earned something in some way. Like it's such a small difference, but it feels like it makes such an impact when you're playing the game. So yeah, I mean, the quest progression's great. The trial system is awesome. The raider decks seem to be really, really good. Um, the store is expensive for sure. But I mean, I hate not to sound like I'm running defense for any of this stuff because obviously character customization is something that I think is very cool, and I would love it if every game had in-depth character customization. But like, I can only get so mad about that in a game that offers you so much and respects the player's time so much. Where it's like, yeah, if you want to buy the fun shiny skins, it's gonna cost like more, probably more than it should. Sure, I'll admit that, but it's like again, when the rest of the game is so respectful of the player's time, it's hard to even pay any attention to that. Um, and then I will say, and this is something that maybe you'll disagree, maybe this will come up again later, negatives that you might disagree with, but compared to its contemporaries, the out of raid experience, from my personal experience, having played a lot of extraction shooters, is much smoother than the competition. Tabbing between your workshop and your traders and your inventory, it's all very seamless and instantaneous, and there's not a lot of hitching. And like, Tarkov was awful for this, but you'd be moving things around in your inventory because it's grid based. It's kind of like the old school Resident Evil based games. But you'd be moving things around, and you'd move too many things too quickly for the game, and the game didn't like it, and so the whole screen would freeze up, and you'd have to back out to the main menu and then come load back in, and it just, some of these games feel so sluggish. But like, Arc Raiders kind of has like a very Apple-like UI to its sort of out of raid menu, and everything just kind of works very seamlessly. Asterisks on keyboard and mouse. I cannot speak to the controller experience, which probably just by nature is more cumbersome, but on keyboard and mouse, this game feels like very snappy, very fast. I'm able to sort of offload my gear from a raid, re-up my inventory very quickly, and then be ready to jump in so much faster than like Delta Force or Tarkov or, Arena Infinite, any other of these extraction shooters.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said for positives. So, are we ready to jump into the negatives?
Let's do it. Let's
Okay.
get spicy.
All right, so negatives. I'm gonna say two things because they kind of coincide exactly with what you were just saying. Just a nice transition there. Character customization. I think my issue with character customization is there's not a lot of base level options. Like I don't like that there's not a lot of like base options to choose from. Like there's like what I'm thinking off the top of my head, like 10 to 12 base faces that you can choose from, for example.
Yes,
and
right.
And of course that includes male and female, so then you're looking at half. If you're looking at a specific gender, you're looking at half the amount. So like that kind of stuff, I wish that they're like actual like development of your character itself, not necessarily the outfits that you're wearing, but like your actual physical representation of your character. I wish there was a bit more in terms of customizing that, because I agree with you. If there's a certain color customization or outfit customization that you want, I'm always a big proponent of like I just want to enjoy the gameplay, and then if you have really cool customization options, that's awesome. Go ahead and support them by buying that customization that you like. It's not like you're going to go out and buy every single outfit that they release on the store. So like that part of it, I don't really care about. It's just mainly the ability to customize your actual character. I wish there was a bit more there. And to be fair, there might be an ability to do that in the future. They could always add that in because you can change your character stuff at any time. So that would be great to see them work on that a bit more, make that a little nicer. And the other thing to jump off of what you were saying was, in terms of UI, yes, this UI I think definitely lends itself very well to keyboard and mouse, and looks very much flawless from what you've been saying as well. It sounds like that's what you're thinking is as well. My experience on controller, there's just like a few things that I feel like they could do that could clean it up a little bit. Sometimes it gets a little cumbersome, trying to go through all the tiles and go from far left to far right, and then you have to go across the tiles. It gets a little cumbersome doing that sometimes. So I'm not suggesting we do the fucking Destiny cursor bullshit because that shit is way too much nowadays that every single game has that UI. But like I would like to see maybe something like triggers. We've talked about triggers maybe going from one extreme to the other to make it a little faster. Stuff like that can make it a little bit easier. And also like when you're going into each of the workshops to craft medical supplies or to craft weapons or to craft attachments, and then you got to put those attachments on. There's multiple layers to that makes it more difficult by nature of it being on a controller, that I feel like it would be cool to have in the future some kind of ability to, we talked about this off air, having like a base loadout, so to speak, or a preset loadout or whatever, that you tell the game, hey, I want this, this, and this, craft it for me. Like, I don't want to have to go through 17 menus to do all of this. And I get that's part of the game, but like, it's also like thinking about it from the controller aspect, it does make it a bit more cumbersome to kind of manage all of that. So
well, and if they had a loadout, a preset system where you could do that, you can also not engage with it, right? Like that's the thing. Like adding the option for, and I think this would be a big boon for like controller users, people on Xbox or whatever. It's like you could add that option. It doesn't take away anything from people like me who have a mouse and keyboard. Like I probably just wouldn't use the preset loadout. I just keep doing what I'm doing because it's fast enough as is on mouse and keyboard. But adding the option of just having a loadout, I don't think it subtracts from the gameplay mechanics at all, because you can just simply not use it, right? It's like that age old meme of you control the buttons you press. Like I feel like that would be such a easy compromise to make. Now again, it's easy to say this as somebody who's not a developer, to be like, oh yeah, just make a system that does all this. Like maybe they can't add it, but I would like to see them try to work towards that, because creating a loadout where it's like, for this loadout template, you select, a Pharaoh with a muzzle brake and a stock and this and a light shield and this thing, and then it's like when you select that loadout, it's like, here's all the materials you need to complete this, and then you just press yes, it takes all of it and then throws it in your inventory. There's your loadout. And then if you could make like 4 or 5 presets, that would kind of really cut down, I think, on a lot of the controller downtime that you find yourself in. And I think that would be a cool addition for sure. I hope that they look at doing that.
Absolutely. Circling back to our conversation about solos, duos, trios, I feel like trios is perfection. I don't think that they need to change anything with trios. I think it's like that's the epitome of what this game is. I think solo is an interesting one for me because I like that solo is very different, that I go in and things are like a lot more chill and you have friendly interactions all over the place. I do worry though, however, like I worry about if that's going to sustain itself, because if you're constantly just going in as a solo and just experiencing the solo only all the time, like I feel like that might detract from the experience a little bit, because you're only seeing one side of it. Now, obviously, you control what you do, so you could go into a fill session on trios, but I would say that I think it works better when you're playing with friends versus random people. So it's like, I don't know how you do it, but I feel like there maybe needs to be some thought about how to make solos a bit more combative in certain situations. Because like right now I'm going into solos and almost every time I'm having 0 issues and everyone's like hunky dory and no problems. And like, I just worry that might get a little stale, having that happen every single time, because you're losing some of that magic of having a different interaction each time.
For sure. I think I have 2 counterpoints to that. The first one being that the game clearly, at least from like an advertising marketing standpoint, like it's clear that 3 players is like what the game was designed around,
Right.
and that the fact that duos and solos exist is really only a reality of like, yeah, somebody might not have a full stack every time. So rather than prevent them from matchmaking, we just have to allow it. But the games, and I'm glad that you say that, when you're playing in stacks of threes, the game feels perfect because, like, in my mind, that was their ideal scenario. This is how the game is meant to be played, and they kind of nailed that, right?
Yeah.
And then the other counterpoint I'd say, which is interesting with what you're saying about solos, is like I kind of agree with you that, like, for sure that some people might be missing out on the experience of an extraction shooter, um, if there's not a lot of shooting going on and it's just a lot of cooperating. Like it feels like, yeah, that might be a little bit different. But what's interesting is that solos is not designed any differently, right? Like it's just kind of like it's almost like a social experiment that this thing keeps happening, that people are friendlier because the game, there's no modifiers to when you load into a solo. It's not like, oh, aggression stat toned down 50%. Like
Right.
the game is like the boundaries are the exact same. It just so happens that for whatever reason players on solo servers seem to be more cooperative. So it's like I kind of agree with you, but I push back on the sense that Embark could do anything about it because they haven't done anything to promote that. It's kind of like this weird anomaly that's happened that like people are kind of seem to be sociable and like and friendly on solo servers, which is weird. And it'd be interesting to find out why that is. So I would be hesitant for them to try and change anything like that because as soon as you start doing that, and you start making a real marked difference between searching for solos and searching for squads, well now it's like, okay, well now there's almost 2 different playlists and there's two, and you're kind of you're you're changing the rules of the game to try and counteract natural sort of player agency. It might not be the agency that we like, and we might think it gets stale for sure, but it's still like the result of just players having free will in a game. So it's a weird thing to try and balance against, and I don't know that they should. And I guess my third thing I'd say is like I don't know that this will last. This might be fun for now, and people are having fun. They're vibing. I mean, let's be honest, like because video games are a form of escapism. The world's kind of like depressing and really dog eat dog right now. So like maybe this is just manifesting like people just want to come on and have a good time, and that's why we're seeing solos like this. But I don't think it'll stay like this forever. I think people will sort of like they're having fun with this game. In a lot of people's minds, this is an indie game, even though we've talked about, the technicalities of that and how that's not quite true. But I think for the average gamer who've never heard of Embark, um, they're kind of playing this cool quote unquote indie game that they've not heard of that is running really well. It looks very gorgeous. The gameplay is sound, and they're logging into these solo runs, and they're like, oh, the community's pretty cool too. So I think people are kind of running away with it right now, but I think that if we T minus 2 months, right? I don't think that solos will still be this friendly. They might always be friendlier than squads just because it's like the nature of being able to negotiate one-on-one is easier than like convincing your two stack to also do what you want to do. But I do think that maybe the friendliness will tone down over time.
Yeah. I think the only disagreement I have with you on those are great points. The only disagreement I have with you is with the idea that solos is essentially the same playlist, because it feels it, even though that they prioritize solos, they say they prioritize solos, so that means they won't necessarily always have all solos matches. It feels like every match that you go in solo is all solos, so it already feels like it's its own separate thing right now anyways, even though it's not like a separate experience. So that would be my only argument to that, would be like it already feels like its own thing and it already feels separate. So it's
Sure,
like,
but there's no rule set change, is what
no,
I'm
no,
getting
no,
at.
no.
Like
Yeah.
there's
I'm
nothing
just,
that the game is doing to funnel
yeah,
people into a friendly outcome. They just happen to be friendly on solos.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking like how could what are things that they could do without changing the fundamentals of the game to encourage different play styles in solo, rather than like a wait and see approach? Because maybe you're right. Maybe in a few months from now, things will be different on solo servers, but maybe it's not. I don't know. And
Right.
maybe people like that. I might be in the minority in saying that I'd like to see a little bit of a change there, but I don't know.
You could also, but this is the thing though, with how solos is turning out, is that it feels like it's not. What I'm saying is, like, it feels like it's not orchestrated. Like, the reason that people are friendly is just because they happen to be friendly. But you could
Right.
also turn that around, Dan, where it's like, if you want to see more chaos in solo servers, you can be the change you want to see. You can go
Right.
out there and shoot first and ask questions later,
Yeah.
and just fucking clear a lobby. Like, nothing. That's the thing. Nothing is
Right,
stopping
right.
you from doing that. It just so happens that people, for whatever reason, are
Right.
cooperating.
Yes. And it, you know, I'm speaking about not liking that, but then I'm also the same person that's taking advantage of it by doing my quests
Right.
in solos. So
Please
yeah.
don't shoot. Please don't shoot. I'm just
Exactly.
questing.
Exactly. So it's a fair point.
Right.
Okay, so to talk about duos, I think what's interesting to me is I almost feel like duos need something completely different, like more so than solos, because my problem with duos is if you are not matched with someone who is like very much as invested as you are, if you're very invested, and very calculated with everything you're doing, I don't think you're going to succeed in duos, and that does concern me a little bit, because like oftentimes there's times where I may not have more than one other person to play with on this game, and that's a difficult ask to go into a lobby where you're filled with a whole bunch of other squads, because I don't think it does anyways, unless I'm wrong on this. I don't think it prioritizes duos. If you search duos, it will just put you into a normal three-person lobby, where everybody's in teams of 3. And I wonder if that would be possible to just say, okay, duos is turning into a situation where most duos are not succeeding. So maybe give people the option where if they are experienced and know their way around and feel like they're very comfortable, they can search in the normal lobby with duos, so they can still go in with 2 people in the normal lobbies. But if they don't want that experience and would rather have a more quote unquote fair experience where you're matching only duos, I feel like that might be a better alternative to give people that option,
Right.
especially since this game has so much population right now. I don't think that would be an issue in terms of population size. I don't think it would increase matchmaking times or anything like that.
Right. I think the problem that they run into, and I think we should point this out for people who, like, Kirik was asking about the game, so I'm assuming he hasn't played it. When we talk about, like, how I mentioned that there's no different playlists, when Dan and I are talking about solo queuing and squad queuing, like, people have to realize this stuff is entirely in the background. There is no separate playlist. When we talk about solo queuing or squad queuing, we're talking about just simply switching squad fill on or off. There is no multiple playlists to choose from. It is just play game. Are you playing squad fill on or squad fill off? Now, they did mention before release, and this might have been a telegraph for what you're talking about, where they said, like, hey, this game is designed for 3 players, but we hear you guys that want to play solo. We hear your concerns. Therefore, when you match solo, we're going to try and prioritize the system to match you with other solo players. They never ever mentioned duos, right? And I think that's because behind the scenes they don't have a system that does that. I don't think there's any prioritization for having a duo. I think it's just either is there more than one player or is there not more than one player? And if there's more than one player, you get put in squads, and if there's not, you get prioritized for solos. If it's not going to break the system, and if it doesn't get exponentially harder on the engine to sort of add another layer every single time, then I would love for them to try and prioritize duos in the same way that they do in the background for squads and solos. I have no quarrel with that. That sounds totally fine to me. I just wonder if it's one of those things where it's like they're looking at the metrics, and either they have such a huge majority of people doing either squads or solos, and then you have the next largest chunk of people doing the opposite, and then duos is like that weird sort of like it just happens to be a small subset of people where it's like, oh, I don't quite have my full squad on tonight, but I still want to play, so me and my buddy are gonna play without our third. Like, I wonder if the reason that there doesn't seem to be any support for it is that it just happens to be that sort of minority case where it's like most people are playing squads, and then 30% of people are doing solos, and then like 5% of our player base is doing that duos. Maybe that's what's happening. Again, as long as it doesn't break the engine, I would love for them to still try to do a prioritization for duos because it works so well for solos and squads. Like, I personally in full game launch have not come across a 3-man team playing when I'm searching for solos. Like, it has worked rock solid every time. Obviously in squads you can come across one guy, but it's hard to tell if his team already got wiped. Like, you can't really map that out onto any sort of data that you can use. So yeah, I mean, the system they have works so well for squads and singles. It'd be cool if they would be able to do something for duos. I just wonder if they're looking at the metrics and seeing like, this is not something that happens very often.
For sure. The last negative that I can think of, for me is, you were talking about this as well earlier, the arc balancing. I think in the server slam, or not the server slam, sorry, the technical test, I definitely had a lot of struggles against the arc, and I felt like at that time that maybe they needed to be nerfed a little bit. I think now, playing a lot more and getting invested into it and such, I think that the actual balance between their health and their power and how much damage they deal, I think that's fine. I think my biggest gripe is the fucking their ability to notice you, because sometimes and it's inconsistent, right? Because like sometimes I feel like I'm like nowhere near a drone, and then like I see a drone like fucking 500 feet in the sky. Like, there was one instance where it was like so high up, and I'm like, there's no way it can see me right here. Like, I ping it and it's 500 meters away or whatever it is.
Right.
And it fucking turns yellow, and then it's fucking locked in on me and it's coming down. I think maybe their awareness could be dialed down a little bit, which they said they did after the server slam, but to me it didn't feel any different than the server slam.
Feels very similar.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that's maybe my only gripe with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I still lean on the side of like, even though I've had matches where I'm crashing out because it's like we just finished cleaning up a fight and I've got, 2 purple guns in my backpack and 3 blue guns and all this crafting material that I need, and it just feels like the drones are hounding me, and it's like, yeah, I've crashed out and I've been like, fuck these fucking drones, but like, I don't know. I still feel like, only because I've seen those other games what they turn into very quickly. It's like, if they balance the drones to be a little bit easier, I feel like it can accidentally happen where suddenly you pass the line of like, well, now this is a battle royale with drones. And I'm just so worried of that happening because right now the game, like I said, it feels so unique compared to its contemporaries, where it's like we're almost strategizing as much about the drones as we are about players, and that is that's what I feel like makes this game so unique. So it's like, I do hear you, and I don't think it's a totally unwarranted complaint.
Yeah.
I just worry that like, it's like that saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. Like, I worry that like, if they did cave and they did say like, okay, you know what, we're gonna reduce the health slightly, or we're gonna reduce their damage output slightly, that like it turns into a game where as soon as we spawn into a match, we're just talking about where players are going to be, and we're just kind of not really paying attention to the arc. Whereas right now it's like you have to work around the arc. There was a match where you and I were talking about bringing in like these crazy anti-arc weapons, and we were saying like, we'll bring in our weapons to take down the arc, and we'll have our third, he'll run security, and he'll be the anti-player sort of lookout. And it's like, just the fact that we're going into a match in a PvPvE game talking about like, here's our strategy to take down the AI on the map, and then
Right.
if players show up, we'll deal with that. That is such a flip to the normal in this genre. So I just worry that they might lose a little bit of what makes them special. But like I said, I do hear you. The arc are kind of oppressive, but I also wonder if that's not one of those things where it's like they're trying to do something where it's like, yeah, that's the story of the game, is that these arc are super brutal, and that's why we had to go underground. And like, I think sometimes people might not want to give developers the benefit of the doubt like that, but I'm like, they could be trying to add immersion through gameplay, where it's like, yeah, these are an oppressive force, and this is why humanity's underground right now, because these fucking wasps don't ever stop.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me, it's like, yeah, even though it makes me crash out sometimes, when I think about it, to me, it adds to the experience more than it detracts from it.
And I think that maybe there's been a couple of situations that I can think of specifically. Maybe there's also certain situations where maybe there's a bug and like it's not supposed to be like recognizing me, and it is, because
Right.
like, well, this isn't in terms of recognition, but like I was on Bluegate, and I was opening up one of the drops that you have to like use your crowbar and tear it
Right.
off and such. And I started tearing that off. Well, the little pod comes in and drops off 2 wasps or 2 hornets, whatever. I always get them mixed
Yeah.
up.
Right.
It drops off 2 of them. I fucking stopped because I'm like, I got to take care of this, because it literally dropped it off right on top of me. And so I took care of both of them, killed them both, went back to breaching the thing, got a little bit further in the breach, and what happens? Another fucking
Oh my
drop
god.
in the exact same spot, and then 2 more of them pop out, and I'm like, what the fuck? I just killed these 2 like 2 seconds. I didn't even have enough time to finish the breach. So like stuff like that, I'm like, I feel like that's not supposed to happen, because that seems a little egregious.
Right.
But
I do wonder if, because we've talked about, there's rumors of them using machine learning. Could this be like, could this be an effect of trying to use machine learning for your bots, where it's like they have hallucinations, where suddenly they have information they're not supposed to have access to, and they immediately turn on a dime and see you. Like, if it turns out that they are using machine learning, that kind of leaves the door open for like, okay, well then that's kind of like um it's an unguided process, right? You don't really
Right.
have the dedication of a developer or a coder sort of like going over these, making sure there's all these rules. If they do have an element of that, then that could explain why sometimes it seems like they just constantly know where you are, and they're turning on a dime. And like you said, sometimes the detection range that you brought up earlier is something that I have noticed, where there's certain times, I feel like it happened recently, maybe a couple nights ago, where we were all running through the forest, and like this one hornet like was like maybe like 3 or 4 meters above our heads and just flew past us. And I think you and I both stopped and turned and were like, why didn't he get aggroed on us? Like, he's
Right.
way closer than most of the other bots, right? And I think Christian brought up the fact that we were under trees, so maybe that works. But also maybe if they are using machine learning, that there's just some like hiccups in the algorithm that kind of keep them from sometimes acting too weak, and then sometimes being like fucking Solid Snake. They just know exactly where you are and they're on you.
Absolutely. All right. Any more positives or negatives before I jump into the next segment here?
Let's get into the next segment, because
All
we could spend hours upon hours talking about this game.
Holy shit, we already have.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so what's the future roadmap looking like for the rest of the year from Arc Raiders? Ongoing basis, they are going to have new map conditions, new feats and trials, new cosmetics, quality of life updates, and more. They also have a North Line update coming in November, which will include a new map, Stella Montis, as well as a community unlock event, new arc called the Matriarch, and also the Shredder. New gameplay items, new quests, all of that is coming in November. And then December brings us Cold Snap, which includes Snowfall map condition, Flickering Flames event, Expedition Departure window, new Raider deck, and new quests, and much more on the way.
That's December.
That's coming December, yep.
Nice.
So, big roadmap, on the way for this game. So, before we move out of the topic of the show, I ask one last question. Could this game win Game of the Year? Gage.
I feel like there's a lot of people out there in the industry that pay attention to the industry that would have a gut check response of no, it's not going to win because this is the year of, Expedition 33 and Death Stranding 2. And that sounds fair on the surface, but I just wonder if there is a chance just through sheer popular vote. I mean, look at the time it's coming out. We're a month away from the Game Awards and it's coming out with this buzz. Like the timing is definitely on its side. And I do wonder, I know all of the industry people will be voting for Clair Obscur, which is fine. I've heard it's a beautiful game. I just wonder if there actually is legitimately a chance because I don't know how the Game Award voting system works. Is it decided by popular vote? In which case, I think it's within the realm of possibility this game could. If it's not decided by that, and I have it totally wrong, and it's okay, so then I think that we should all just tone our expectations down. Is this my game of the year? There's a very good chance it is.
Don't spoil the Game of the Year episode.
Hey, there's a good chance. I didn't say anything for sure yet. It's been a good year for games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen people kind of already putting stock into it, and it's I can already see the people are preparing themselves to get disappointed when it's not Game of the Year, whereas I feel like it's already kind of an uphill battle because you have to account for what the rest of the industry is playing. And like I said, if Clair Obscur doesn't have it on lock, then Death Stranding 2 is very popular with those types of crowds too. If that game doesn't have it on lock, I'm sure there's another single player game that came out this year that I'm not thinking of. Yeah. So it's already an uphill battle for a multiplayer game to win Game of the Year.
Yep.
So I would want everybody to check their expectations on that. However, do I think looking at it objectively, does this game have the merits of a game that I would put in that category for consideration? Absolutely. I think this, from a game design standpoint, this is a very well designed, very intentional, very focused team that has released a very polished product. And I think it absolutely has the right to be in the conversation. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you were saying. And because of the Game of the Year voting is mainly media, and I think Jeff Keighley's talked about it a little bit in the past, where he's not even a voter. It's just a panel of people from across games media that are chosen to vote on Game of the Year. I think the fact that that's your audience for people who are actually choosing Game of the Year, I don't think it will win.
Right.
Does it have the merits to be Game of the Year though? Absolutely. I think it definitely deserves to be in the conversation.
Hell yeah.
I've seen some people say the price point, it's only a $40 game. Personally, I don't take a lot of weight to price point in games in terms of whether it should be Game of the Year or not. Especially for a game of this magnitude that I feel like your price per dollar is insane value. I feel like it's really good value. And it's a technically well-made game. It runs very well and very fun to play, gameplay smooth. Yeah. Could it win Game of the Year? Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
Gage, it is 9:21. So I think I'll just leave the quick bites for next week's episode. We had some stuff in there to talk about, but we're running late already, so I think I'm just gonna leave that.
You just want to get to Fantasy Critic update is what you want to get to. Look at you!
I do.
Look at you!
Well, I mean, we have 8 minutes until you have to go.
Yeah. Take us to the Fantasy Critic.
So
update.
yes,
go ahead.
With that being said, we will jump into our fantasy draft check-in, and let's just check into our league history and see if anybody picked anything up. And no, Christian last picked up Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which we talked about already last week. But we do have an update, and of course, it is the game we were just talking about, which is Arc Raiders. And only one person on this podcast actually believed that Embark could do it and believed in the product that they were making after we played the technical test in April. Dan was the only one to bid on this game. I just want to reiterate that. Dan
You
was
say
the
that you were the only one to play it. No,
one.
no, 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 no. Objection, Your Honor. We jump into the technical test Friday night, and I'm guessing this motherfucker, before he went to bed that night, snuck on to Fantasy Critic, typed in Arc Raiders, and did it and bought it after like 4 matches played. I would have that Sunday. I'm pretty sure I logged on to see to buy it, and you had already snuck in there and grabbed it.
We're gonna do a live on-air fact check. Arc Raiders technical test release date:
April 30th to May 4th.
April 30th to May 4th. Okay.
Right.
The bid processed on May 10th. A full week
What?
after. A full week after.
What?
So that is a live fact check, ladies and gentlemen, where
Oh
Dan
my God.
was the only one that believed in Arc Raiders with a bid of $9. Thank you very much for that. All right, so Arc Raiders currently sits on OpenCritic at a 93 on OpenCritic, giving me 26 whopping points there. Thank you. Thank you, Embark. I believed in you guys.
I hate that you're the one getting those points. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I will say though, I saw somebody post. I don't know if it's true, but they're saying that Arc Raiders is the highest rated multiplayer game on OpenCritic now with that 93 score. I don't know if that's true. I'd have to fact check that. That would be crazy if that's true.
That would be crazy.
Very deserving though. That is a
Yeah.
It is an incredible score. I'm very, not that I know any of them or have any relation to them, but I am very happy for the Embark team coming from leaving DICE and sort of saying like, we're sick of making Battlefield. We want to make creative games again. And then having 2 very successful launches. But obviously this one seems to be reaching higher heights than the finals did, and hopefully has more legs to it. Yeah, very happy for that team. Good for them. I'm sure EA will not take any lessons from this at all. But it's like, yeah, a lot of the people that have been making really successful games for you guys, the big publishers, if you gave them like a little bit of free rope and a little bit of slack, they would probably be able to still do incredible things, because guess what? It's talented people make good games. So yeah, I can't help but really be excited for them from that aspect too, where it's like, you love to see the story of like, we're going to leave the corporate overlords to do our own thing, and then you just blow everyone's expectations out of the water. Very cool stuff.
Very cool indeed. We also got an update on Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake for Rose Team, and it is at an 85 on OpenCritic for 15 points for Rose Team. So big get there for him. And just looking out at the rest of the year, or at the rest of the month, not the rest of the year. The rest of the month here, we've got Lumines Arise coming 11/11/2025 for Christian's team. So just next week coming out. Then we have Kirby Air Riders, which I had drafted at one point and then I cut it, but Ro picked them up, coming November 20th. So look out for that. That's the rest of November. Nobody drafted Call of Duty Black Ops 7 coming out next week. That might be a game of the year. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So yes, lots of fantasy draft. I think at some point, like I need to call up the commissioner of our league, Christian Macias, and say, at a certain point, should I not be allowed to drop either Judas or fucking Mina the Hollower? Which I found out today, Mina the Hollower has been temporarily, or it's been delayed indefinitely. Which, how is it being delayed indefinitely not mean that it's delayed out of this year? Like, wouldn't that be what that means? And then Judas, which we haven't fucking gotten any clear indication of any release date, is definitely not coming out the last month and a half of the year. Could I fucking release one of them? I have one drop left for games that will not release this year. So I can't cut either one because they're not marked as not releasing this year on Fantasy Critic. But obviously neither of those games are coming out this year.
So you want to go behind the scenes and talk to the commissioner of the league and see if you can work out a little deal for yourself, of course. Yeah.
Because
no, absolutely not.
Those games are not coming this year. It's clear. Like that
It sounds like you made a bad you made a bad investment.
No, that's not fair.
This is the salary cap all again.
No,
Dan needs to be salary
different.
caps. Do not let him drop these bids.
Hang on. I purposely saved $3 in my budget. I have $3 left, which is just enough for one game. I'm very calculated with my numbers and knew the whole time that one of these might get delayed. And unfortunately, both of them are delayed, but neither of them are marked as fucking delayed out of this year, so I can't drop either one. I think if we get to December 1st and these haven't been marked, I think that would be fair for me to be able to drop it and try to find something that releases in December. I don't even know if anything releases in December, but at this point, I just want to fucking get something, you know?
Right.
And I'm already guaranteed one of them I'm going to get 0 points because they're both not coming out. So, oh well. Anyways, I'll take that up with the commissioner. What you got for? Do you have anything other than Arc Raiders, Gage?
No.
Okay.
No,
that's all
not
I
even.
Yeah.
I thought about downloading the Outer Worlds too, but I'm so hooked on Arc that I can't even.
I I played a few hours of Outer Worlds before Arc Raiders came out, and then now I haven't even fucking touched it since then. And
that's crazy to me because I would have. Go ahead.
Well, that's not an indication of Outer Worlds at all. It's just
no.
Arc Raiders came out, and then I became infatuated. I will definitely be getting back to Outer Worlds 2. Don't let me mince words there, because the first game is still my 2019 game of the year, and what I've played thus far is very much more of that, which I love. So I can't wait to get back into it.
No, it's just funny because I know with myself, I was like, oh, when these games come out, what I'll do is I'll play Arc Raiders with the lads, and then when everybody gets off, I'll go play Outer Worlds 2. But then what's ended up happening is, like, when everybody's not on, I just play solo Arc Raiders.
Yeah.
I just do solo runs.
Yeah.
So I am meaning to get to Outer Worlds 2 as well. I do mean to get to it. But I haven't even downloaded it because, like, again, everybody gets off, and I'm like, I just don't get up from the computer. I just keep playing Arc Raiders.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. All right. Thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube and Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Thank you, Gage. Roshan will return. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.
Adios.